What's going on, Monster Bass fam? It's Jeff from Aggressively Average Anglers, and I want to talk to you guys about one of my favorite tackle hacks that I recently discovered that I know is not news to everyone, but probably is news to a lot of people, and that's packing a day box to lighten the tackle load. So we're going to dive into this hack in today's video. I'm going to show you guys how I do it, and hopefully it's something that'll be helpful for you so you're not overloaded with tackle that you're not even going to use anyways for a day on the water. This hack is especially ideal if you fish from the bank or a kayak. And my bass boat friends, I mean, you got plenty of room, so take whatever the heck you want. You know, you got to have all your stuff. For those of us fishing from the bank or from a kayak though, we got to take more of a minimalist approach, and we're going to get into that right now. And of course, if you guys like this content, be sure to subscribe to Monster Bass. And if you get 5 extra seconds, hop on over to Aggressively Average Anglers, where you'll find me and my buddy Paul learning new techniques every single week. So if you want to learn along with us, consider subscribing. So the day box is like a really simple concept that's not necessarily easy to execute. So here's how we like to break it down on our channel. We start by researching the weather, right? So once we know what the weather is going to be like and we know where we're going to be fishing, so I know the type of body of water, what temp it's going to be, what the wind situation is, if we're going to have a pre-front, post-front, if we got rain, if we got snow, we do a little research on that. From there, we dig into what techniques we should be using based on the time of year, the weather we're dealing with, and the body of water we're fishing. Yes, it's a little upfront research, but we all would benefit from doing that more because it leads to way fewer skunk days. So if you want to make sure you're always catching fish, highly recommended. It takes about an extra 20 to 30 minutes, and that's just part of the prep cycle that we go through. So once you know what's going down, we choose a few select techniques. Now, again, if you're fishing from the bank, if you're going from a kayak, we can't just be like, we're going top water to bottom fishing and we're bringing, 3 of everything, because that would load us down way too much. We may sometimes, especially like in the summer, we know a lot of things are going to be working. We might go with 3 to 5 techniques. So my first suggestion would be know the conditions. Second would be know the body of water. So if I'm fishing a creek, a river, a small lake or a pond, a bigger lake, a massive lake, these are all gonna affect what I'm going to bring with me. Once I have all of that dialed in, pick out 2 to 5 techniques based on how you wanna fish that day or based on what you have at your disposal. You might not have the right type of setup, the right combo or right gear to fish everything that you may want to fish. So stick with what you know is gonna work for the conditions in the body of water and what you have at your disposal to start. The next thing I'll do is I'll break it down into 3 categories when we're packing this up. Number 1, we're gonna start with our plastics. So what kind of plastics am I gonna need to bring? Here, I'd recommend you take one of those nice Ziploc bags that Monster Bass has, or you can pick them up on Amazon, but here you go. Simple, easy to use, very small, discreet, doesn't take up a lot of room. Or if you're in a kayak like me, you have just a little bit more room at your disposal, maybe go with something a little bit bigger. So I love using this one right here. This is a Busby Quick Cube. The LD stands for large, deep. It's the size of a 3700 size box, and the deep means it's obviously deeper than a normal box would be. So this gives me plenty of room for a full day's worth of plastics. I've got everything I could possibly need based on the techniques that we're fishing that day. Now, if I'm going a day where I'm mostly using body baits, I might either not bring this at all, or I'll go with a smaller version, like this little guy right here. It's the size of a 3600 size box, and it doesn't hold as much, but I don't really need it to. This is my ultralight plastics. Every single ultralight plastic I own is right here in this little tiny container. So simple for me to bring. If I want to, again, minimize that gear, I can throw this in a backpack, go hit the bank. So while we're on plastics, here's what we recommend going into this box. Start with those techniques. So in this case, this is pre-packed already because I just went on a trip. So me and Paul, we went out and we decided to fish big swim baits. So all you're gonna find in here is gonna be 5-inch plus flukes, paddle tails, etc. So we're having mostly just that stuff in there. So with that said, you're gonna see stuff like, speed shads from Bass Pro Shops. You're gonna see 5-inch Kitex. You're gonna see some Max Scent flukes, just stuff like that is in here. Maybe even some Z-Man swimmers. All sorts of stuff. It's a treasure trove in here, really, but that's all you're gonna find. So once we figure out those techniques, now what I like to do is get a few different color variants and maybe a few different styles of action. Whereas a speed shad might be something that I'm burning, maybe throwing on an underspin, right? That makes a lot of sense. Something like the Z-Man swimmers, I would probably fish a little bit slower. It's something where I might even just Texas rig it, Carolina rig it, you know, and just slow that technique down. So it gives me a lot of options. So for the example of swim baits, I'm gonna have a few different types of swim baits, and then I'm gonna have a few different color variations. You can tell right here between these two, I got my bright colors, I got my dark colors. And that's pretty much as complex as we really like to get with this, because as with most things, keep it simple, stupid, the KISS method really comes through. The simpler this setup is, the more effective and efficient you'll be on the water. I guarantee you. It's been a game changer for us on our channel. And again, if we know the conditions of the water, so if I know where we went fishing, I got mostly clear water, like 9-foot visibility. I'm probably taking more of the natural and brighter colors with me. So you're gonna have lots of those pearls and whites, and you're also gonna have a lot of the like local forage colors. So, you know, green pumpkin, blue flake, trying to match up to, you know, like your bluegill, maybe a little bit chartreuse and white, stuff like that. And if it's a bright day, we had all sun that day, I'm going with those flashier colors. And I'm gonna stick with that. And it tends to work really well that way. So that's it for plastics. Next thing we do is we determine terminal. We determine the terminal. And with that, it's pretty simple if you have something like we do, the Plano Edge terminal box. These are super skinny boxes. So again, whether you're on the bank or a kayak, you got plenty of room for this, I promise you. You just need to choose if you need the 3700 size, it's this one, or a 3600 size. And it'll carry pretty much everything you need, because let's all face it, we think we need 50 EWGs on hand, but we really don't. You just need a couple. And these are nice because they're modular. You can adjust it on the fly, so I can pop these little bins out, swap from one of my other terminal boxes, and only bring the stuff that I really need. In this case, this is currently set up for finesse because our water temp this last weekend was 35 degrees. So if I have super cold water temps, but open water, I mean, I'm going fishing, I just have to fish a lot slower and go a lot more finesse-y most of the time. Sometimes we just throw out those big old swim baits, but even with that, we're just fishing really, really slow. So this right here, you've got drop shot, you've got Nico nail weights, you've got those finesse hooks, you've got some Ned rigs, I've got everything from like my ultralight mule jigs, some of my favorite stuff on the market, to some newcomer here, the pig jigs right there, skirted EWG style Ned jig. So those are pretty awesome. I've got everything I need. And then as far as drop shot, I've got a few different variants of weights in here as well. So if you can, I would highly encourage that you pick up one of those. If you want to save some money, because those run around 40, 50 bucks, depending on if you can find it on sale or not, consider just getting a regular tackle box. Just understand that your weights, everything's going to get beat up in there. The hooks are going to move around. It's not ideal, but it works. So do what you can do and make it work for you. Then finally, we get to the star of the show, the thing that started this whole concept for us a couple years ago and has been working ever since, and that is the Busby Colony Tackle Box. So we use these specifically because they're so easy to change out. These are modular. So what we can do is flip open my two heavy-duty latches. It opens all the way. You can see I've got a bunch of different shaped containers in here. So I can pop these out nice and easy. And if you have a couple of these, or if you go on Busby's sites, you can buy any shape of these cubes. So I can get little tiny 1x1s. I can get a 2x1. So depending on the size of the lures that you're packing, I can also get a 2x2 here. So depending on the size of your lures, you can contain anything in one of these bins. So you choose the appropriate bin based on what you're fishing. An example would be jerk baits. They fit better in here because I love fishing like 110 size jerk baits, 110 millimeter. They fit specifically in here. I can fit 4 or 5 of those, pack it in. Or if I'm fishing spinner baits, this is one of the only containers I've found where I can store spinner baits and not have to bring something like one of these gigantic bulky spinner bait boxes with me on the water, because we all know that's not really realistic unless you're in maybe a bass boat. So the technique for this really is just knowing the lures that you want to fish for the day. So you can see this is structured with mostly long boxes. So we have 2 of the 1x4s, meaning it takes up 1, 2, 3, 4 of the unit spaces in here, which is like one little cube in the Busby's, and 4 of these 1x3s, slightly shorter, then 2 of these 2x2s. In these 2x2s, I'm gonna have my dark spinners, and I'm gonna have my bright flashy spinners. I might even switch that out sometimes and have like my loud spinners, big old Colorado blades, things like that. And then because it's cold water fishing right now, the rest of those bins would be filled with chatterbaits, blade baits, and lipless baits, square bills, and then probably also a metric butt ton of jerk baits. Mostly because those are the techniques that we know work on these local bodies of water. So I can load this box up, just one box, and I can throw that in my backpack and I've got everything I need to produce a whole bunch of catches for a day on the water. Super simple setup. I mean, we're talking at this point, I can have all the terminal I could ever need, all the plastics I could ever need on the water, and all the lures I could ever need, and it's gonna take up just about this much space. There, I'm done. I'm ready. I almost lost it. I'm ready to go fish. Cool thing about that is if I'm in a kayak and you have like maybe a crate, or if you have a sit inside kayak and you have no back storage, no front storage, it's basically just down between your legs, this takes up no room. So you can fit that in any kayak, like literally any kayak. And I've had from the tiny Sun Dolphin all the way up to my Hobie Pro Angler. I could fit this in easily. It wouldn't take up any room or clutter my space. Last thing you gotta do is you gotta grab your combos of choice. As far as gear goes, if I'm doing the day box trip, I'm bringing 2 combos. So one will be a spinning setup and one will be a bait casting setup. When we're minimizing, we don't have the luxury of having that perfect combo, the absolutely dialed in crankbait setup. And then I have to switch if I'm gonna throw a jerkbait. It's gotta be the jerkbait combo. And I'm sure most of you you're in this position, right? Like we totally get it. So if you can bring one spinning combo and one bait casting combo, or if you hate spinning combos, you bring only bait casters and vice versa. But if I'm doing that, then I have to have the well-rounded combos. So I'm grabbing something that, for me, from a bank or a kayak, is roughly around that 7 foot to 7'3" length. I'm going with a moderate to a fast action just because that covers such a wide spread. If I really have to minimize, it's a fast action because you can fish anything on it. Even if it's not ideal, it'll get the job done. And then I'm going for that like moderate gear ratio for my reels. If I'm throwing a spinning reel, it might be like a 5:3 to 1 or something. And then if I'm throwing my bait caster, it's gonna be a 7:3 to 1, just the standard right up the middle. And that's mainly just because it'll cover the broad spectrum of things that we brought with us. And that's really it. This is the hack. So if you guys want to slim and trim things down and you don't wanna have to keep carting all your tackle with you, trust me, I've been doing it for years and it absolutely sucks because it's super heavy kayak that I have to drag around and just stuff that I have to pile in my truck, put it in the boat, get on the water, and then reverse it on the way out. It's not that fun. Although you have everything at your disposal, you end up only using 2 to 3% of it. So in our humble opinion, this is something that, you know, not only do we believe makes the day a little bit easier and a little more effective and efficient, it also makes fishing just really fun because I don't have to overcomplicate things and I can just focus on making my casts and trying to find fish. This is something that we're focused on our channel this year. So if you want to see how we do it in every single fishing video we put out this year, make sure you go subscribe to Aggressively Average Anglers. And of course, stay subscribed to Monster Bass so you can see more videos like this from other amazing creators out there. And also make sure that you tune into the live podcast that we do on both this channel with Rick every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern and on our channel every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Love to see you guys there and talk to you in chat. Thanks for watching this video, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.